Hey guys, I'm here with just a quick video to review how to take a quadratic function like we have in these two examples and put it into our graphing form. We had to do this back when we were working with quadratic functions in chapter 5 and graphing, and it's going to come back and we're going to be using it again as we work with conic sections in chapter 11. So looking at example number 1, we have y equals x squared plus 6x plus 4. And our goal is to get it into graphing form. And so what we want is a binomial squared, and we cannot get that with the current equation that we have. So you might recall that the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to bump over the 4, or just move it over and leave a space that is going to allow us to complete the square. The next thing we do is take the middle term, or the x term, which is 6x, and we're cutting that coefficient in half, and then we're going to square that number. So 6 cut in half is 3, and then we're going to square that, which gives us 9. And we know that whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other, so we're going to add 9 on the other side. And so we're going to simplify this a little bit. We have y plus 9 is equal to, and then our x squared plus 6x plus 9 becomes our trinomial that we can write as x plus 3 squared, and then we have that plus 4 afterwards. And then the last thing we need to do is isolate y by subtracting 9. And so we end up with y equals the quantity x plus 3 squared. 4 minus 5 is negative 5, so minus 5. And this is graphing form for our quadratic functions. Now, if you look at number 2, you'll notice that we have a leading coefficient in front of the x squared of 3. And we did not have that in number 1, so it just looks slightly different in terms of the process. So let's go ahead and look at that one. So the first thing we're going to do is that in order to be able to create our perfect square trinomial and then factor it into a binomial squared, is we have to factor out the 3. But we're only going to factor it out of the 3x squared and the negative 12x. So if we take that 3 out, we end up with x squared, and then dividing negative 12 by 3 is negative 4 minus 4x. And then once again, we're going to leave a spot to complete the square and move over or bump over the 8, okay? And then the next thing is we create our perfect square trinomial. So once again, we cut that negative 4 in half, which is negative 2, and then we square it, which is positive 4. So negative 2 quantity squared is positive 4. And in order to keep our equation balanced, we have to add over to the other side. But we're not adding 4. We're actually going to add 4 times 3. Because if I were to go back and multiply that out, that's what I would end up getting. So we actually need to add 12 over to the other side. And I'm just going to move that y over. So we have y and then plus 12. And then we can go ahead and do the same thing we did on the previous problem, which is factor, but now we have that 3 in front. This trinomial factors to x minus 2 squared, and then we have that plus 8, and then finally the last thing we're going to do is subtract 12. And so our vertex or graphing form for this is y equals 3 parentheses x minus 2 squared, and then 8 minus 12 is negative 4. And so hopefully that's a